in public process. Tonight, you will have the opportunity to address City Council on both non-agenda and agenda items. The agendas and the speaker request cards are located on the tables outside of council chambers. You must fill out a speaker card in order to address the City Council. Please hand in your completed card to the City Clerk before the start of the meeting. If the meeting has already begun, please hand it to any city staff. You may also check the "I do not wish to speak" option on the card. This allows you to still voice your opinion on an item on the record without having to speak. Public comment on a non-agenda item will take place during the citizen comment portion of the evening. These are items that don't appear on tonight's formal agenda. The City Clerk will call your name when it's time for you to speak. At that time, please approach the podium and state your name for the record. We ask that you speak clearly into the microphone. You'll have a maximum of 3 minutes, and there is a timer visible from the podium. When the light changes from green to yellow, your time is coming to an end. When the light turns red, your time is up. Note that you may also choose not to speak if other speakers before you have said what you wanted to say. Shouting, cheering, and loud noises will not be tolerated, and violators may be removed for disrupting the meeting. Goodyear City Council meetings stream live on Facebook and YouTube, and online at goodyearaz.gov. Thank you for your participation in tonight's meeting.
I'd like to call to order the regular meeting on January 4th, 2021. Happy New Year, everybody that's in the building tonight. I'm looking forward, and we all are looking forward to a spectacular new year. All right, please join Councilmember Kano in the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dear Heavenly Father, we give thanks for the grace of new beginnings. Last January, we greeted the new year with great expectation for a fresh vision for the new decade. We did indeed get a new vision through the experience of a continuing global pandemic. It was a year of struggle and loss, but also a year of generosity and creativity. And through it, Goodyear and our neighboring cities thrived, and for this, we thank you. This year, we are humbled and uncertain about what is to come, yet we are expectant of your goodness, your provision, and your love to cast out all fear. Give us the wisdom and discernment we need to navigate this new year, to be good stewards of the city, and to give thanks to you in all things. This year, we will celebrate the founding of Goodyear's 75 years ago, a city known then and now for innovation and production. Help us to set a good foundation where our residents and businesses live in their destiny. Heal us of broken relationships, offenses, and unforgiveness. And as always, we pray for the protection and safety of our police, fire, and military. Protect them from all enemies seen and unseen. Protect their minds and emotions and their bodies from injuries and disease. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Well, once again, Councilmember Kano, those were wonderful words. We are all present tonight. We are going to have somewhat of a change in the sequence we're going to be going tonight, but I'm going to go back to the way it is right now. And the City Clerk, would you give information on how to participate in tonight's meeting?
While the Goodyear City Council meetings are open to the public, the occupancy has been reduced to implement social distancing. Seating is generally available on a first-come basis, but meeting attendees will be cycled in and out if necessary to allow for speakers to speak on certain agenda items. If you wish to speak during a regular meeting, please complete a speaker's card so that we may ensure you are in the room for that item. Face masks are required and must be worn when moving throughout the building. Our residents still have several ways to address the council. They may submit their questions and comments to publiccomments@goodyearaz.gov and during meetings, they can view the meeting using Facebook, YouTube, and the link from our agendas using Granicus. After the meetings are completed, they can also be viewed on YouTube. The public may always contact the mayor and council at any time by sending an email to gycouncil@goodyearaz.gov.
Thank you. Now is the time for citizens who would like to address the city council on any non-agenda item within the jurisdiction of the Goodyear City Council. Are there any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Would anyone in the audience like to speak? All right, then we'll just go on with the agenda. We'll start with the consent agenda. Will the city clerk please read the consent agenda items 2 through 4 by title only, please?
Just as a reminder, number 1 has been removed administratively. Number 2, approve the license agreement with NNP 3-EMR4 LLC for Rainbow Valley Irrigation Line. Number 3, approve a 1-year extension of the preliminary plat of Able Ranch. Number 4, approve the intergovernmental agreement to participate in the Arizona Child Abduction Response Team, AZ CART.
Thank you. Does the council wish to remove any item from the consent agenda?
Right there. I'd like to remove the Able Ranch one,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
the Able Ranch one.
Able Ranch. Well, could I have a number of that?
I think it's 3.
Yes. Number 3.
It is number 3.
Let's see. Rainbow, you're talking about the rainbow one?
No,
Right below it.
Number 3?
yes.
Okay. All right, let's go ahead and vote for 1, 2, and 4. So I do I,
It's just 2 and 4, Mayor.
I'm sorry, what?
Just 2 and 4.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's right.
All right, 2 and 4? All right, let's hear a motion for 2 and 4.
So moved.
Second.
I've heard Councilman Campbell as a motion, and I heard, all right, between the two of you, Councilman Loretano for the second. Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Stipp?
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Loretano?
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell?
Aye.
Councilmember Hampton?
Aye.
Councilmember Kano?
Aye.
Mayor Lord?
Aye.
The motion carries.
All right, we're going to go to number 6, and it's the public hearing
No.
to consider 5-year water and waste. Oh, I didn't vote on number 3. You put it separately. All right. So you want to vote on, you want?
I want to hear a presentation.
I'm sorry, presentation on number 3. Thank you for the reminder.
Actually, probably it's more questions than anything else. I'm trying to understand the process of how this works. As I read it, it expired October 28th of 2020. They turned in the request to extend it 2 days after it expired. And then apparently we sent them a letter on November 1st after it had expired saying, well, not after it expired, but November 1st, that you had till the November 1st to turn the letter in. Is that a typo, or did we send something after it expired, tell them, and gave them a couple extra days?
Thank you, Council Member. What happened with this case is, what's supposed to happen is they're supposed to get council approval on a preliminary plat extension before the expiration date. However, when they came in for their pre-application meeting for final plat, staff gave them incorrect information. There was 2 pieces of information we gave them. First, the original approval was on October 28th, 2019. That was the date council approved the preliminary plat. But the approval letter was dated November 1st, because sometimes it takes us a couple days to put the approval letter together after your action and get it to the applicant. And so when they came in for that pre-application meeting, staff told them November 1st, looking at the date of the letter, when it really should have been October 28th of that deadline. And so the applicant was acting in good faith on the advice that staff gave them and got the request for extension in on October 30th, 2 days before we told them that it was due. Then the second item that happened is basically staff mixed up the rules between final plats and pre-plats because there's 2 different sets of rules for some reason on how they expire. A final plat, you just have to get the request for extension in before the deadline. The pre-plat is technically supposed to be approved before the deadline. But again, staff gave that incorrect information. And the subdivision regulations does give council the authority to modify regulations if extraordinary conditions exist. And so staff is stating that because, again, the applicant was acting in good faith, it was, staff's miscommunication about the deadlines, that they missed the deadline. It was staff's fault, so.
Okay, the only reason why I ask is, I tell you as a teacher, one of my biggest sticking points is for my students is always tell them, no late works accepted unless you ask for a extension prior to the deadline. And this came in after the deadline. Now, mechanically, how would we possibly approve or vote for something that has expired if they're allowed to put a letter into you a day before? You can't get it on the council agenda fast enough. So my question is, do we need to revisit this process so that council, see, I always feel uncomfortable voting on something that has expired, regardless of the reasons why, because it just doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm not even sure, I throw the question back to the attorney, whether we're authorized to vote on something that has expired. I understand the extraordinary circumstances, or maybe that's an out for us to be able to vote on it. So I'm going to ask them that question. But is there some way we need to look at this to see if we can get it prior to these things expiring so that we can actually vote on something that has not expired? Does that make sense?
That does make sense. We were going to recommend actually changing the rules so that it would match the final plat, where they just have to submit the item before it expires. And then we can come to council and it's basically considered not expired until council acts on it. And that way there's a hard deadline. It's very clear that the deadline is 1 year from the council date. When we have to figure in, the council dates, that might mean for this applicant, they have to get it in, like 2 weeks ahead of the deadline, but this other applicant has to get it in 3 weeks ahead of the deadline. And it makes the deadline to get the application in a little bit more arbitrary if we have to schedule the council meeting. It's much simpler to just say, if you get the application date to us by the date it expires, and then it's considered like in a holding pattern until you act on it.
How does the mechanics work? I assume the developer's responsible for tracking the deadlines on those. Do you send out reminders to them prior to the deadline, or is it really just up to them to know that it was voted on X amount of day and they have 1 year to get that in from that point?
The current way it is there are no reminders from staff. It's completely up to the developer to track that themselves. We are trying to explore if our electronic system can help us with that, but we haven't got that part working yet, so.
Yeah, whatever we can do from my perspective that allows us to vote on something that has not expired. Or I throw a question back to the city attorney, under these circumstances, are we still allowed to vote for something that's technically expired?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, members of the council, after you had the question from me earlier today, I did consult with Katie, and I did look at the City Code Chapter 1551. It does seem to be an exceptional circumstance in this case that would allow the council to continue to vote. There's also a legal principle called estoppel, where a party reasonably relies upon a representation of the governmental regulatory authority to their detriment, which theoretically could have happened here, that preserves some of those rights as well. So I think, considering those two principles, you could move forward tonight.
I appreciate that, because that makes me feel a little more comfortable voting on something that has expired under the circumstances. That gives us the authority to do that. But I still think we need something to come back from my perspective to figure out how we can actually vote on something that technically has not expired. So maybe the idea that you throw out lining it up with the final plat may work, but I think we need to explore that so that we don't have things like this.
Councilmember Stiff?
Katie, you said the developer, though, was in the process of working with the staff.
Yes, they've actually already submitted their final plat. They submitted it November 9th, so they were only like a week behind the deadline. So they're working diligently. This isn't a case where they're dragging their feet on the development. They're
right, and I think that's important for us and the public hearing that, to understand that as well, is this was an active case. It just took longer than expected, as opposed to, well, I forgot, so here's my letter. Give me another year. I think and we've talked about that in the past. We didn't want developers dragging their feet and moving on. So I think that whole story is kind of relevant.
Well, I can understand his concern.
Yeah.
But we're in business here, okay? And we have to also look at the other side of all the complications and the things that are going on. We got COVID, there's so many outside influences that are doing it. So, it would be nice if we could change it, but even though we change it, there will be cases. If one of us had to put together one of those construction sites or home building communities, we would be so perplexed. I mean, with all the things that the government does say you have to have and you have to turn in. So I just want us to still be understanding, and that's your job as staff. And you can relay that to us. But I would not, Joe, want any finite rule on this. But that's my opinion, and the rest of you may be different on this.
All I'm saying, Mayor,
yeah,
is she's got a fix for it.
Yeah.
That the letter comes in, but I really have a problem if technically something's expired, validating something after it's expired. I can understand this condition because they got some bad information from staff, and that falls under the purview that we can do it. So I'm fine with that. But I like the idea, what she mentioned about was that we put it so when they put the letter in, because there's no way they're going to do it if they put a letter in a day before it expires, that we're going to act on it. Mm-hmm. So you got to have that same type of issue that you have with the final so that it works. That's all I'm saying. I agree with you.
The only thing is, I'm going to say it again, you're just putting if it could still happen, and we have to make the decision. Do we want to move on with this? And our job as the council is to be there when they need us. And if it happens, and so I'm just a little leery. I don't know how many else feels here, but we're not here to vote on anything. We're here to give our opinion. Wally?
I just would like to encourage you and your staff to try to see if there is some mechanism by which it can automatically, a notice be sent out to the developers that it's going to expire. I mean, with the way computers do nowadays, you would think all you do is push a button and it doesn't. So I know it's not something we've had before. Mm-hmm. So I hope you will continue to take a look at that. And then if there's something we can do to help, just let us know.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Any other? Yes, Laura.
I just want to say I like the idea of matching up the process for the preliminary and final. I think that's just a good plan.
Any other comment? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. All right, so do I hear a motion for 3?
I move that we approve.
Okay, second?
Second.
All right, motion and second is in a roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Stipp?
Aye.
Councilmember Loretano?
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell?
Aye.
Councilmember Hampton?
Aye.
Councilmember Kano?
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Mayor Lord?
Aye.
The motion carries.
All right, our next is a public hearing. Just remind me if this is the one we're going to, the wastewater?
We're going to be moving number 5 to after the...
After.
Correct. So
yeah.
we'll do 6 and
5
then
comes
7.
after 7.
Yes.
Okay, I got it. So I'm going to open the public hearing to consider the 5-year water and wastewater, solid waste, and stormwater rates and fees. The public hearing is open. Finance Director Doug Sandstrom and Public Works Director Javier Sodovich will present. Just one of you there.
Javier will come up as needed.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you stated, tonight we are here to talk about the proposed water, wastewater, sanitation, and stormwater rates through a public hearing. The water in the proposed rates and the most of the presentation that we're going to go through this evening are based upon the report that we had discussed with Council back in October that has been advertised on the website, noticed in the paper, and also postcards sent out to all of our customers. We had a very extensive outreach process, and due to that, we did get quite a bit of feedback from the public. And so, although the presentation is going to be based on that proposed rate, there are a few areas in here as we go through it that I will talk about potential changes that we will be recommending when this does come back to the council for action later on this month. The overall process for the rate study began in December of 2019 when the council appointed a rate committee to begin looking at this. The rate committee, in looking at the 5-year rate plan, is a result of council compliance with council financial policies that require a 5-year rate plan and 5-year forecasts associated with our enterprise funds. Our last 5-year plan ended on January 1st, 2020 with the implementation of that rate. So this is the introduction of the next 5 years of that required 5-year plan. All of the services that we are talking about this evening, water, wastewater, sanitation, and stormwater, are considered enterprise funds. And what that means when we talk about an enterprise funds is that they are self-sufficient, that all of their expenses are covered by the rates that are generated specifically from that. There are no general fund taxes that go into it. There are no other subsidies that go into it. And the rates for these services are not used for anything outside of their intended purpose, which is for that specific service. The rates are designed specifically to not only cover the costs, but also to retain any savings and develop a overall fund balance or savings that will allow us to be flexible in the future with our finances, long-term sustainability, and have enough of a cushion put in place to address any kind of unknowns that may or may not happen over that 5-year period. Overall, the rate setting process can be laid out in these steps that are up here, developing the operational capital strategies. I'll go through that a little bit for each one of the services. Assessing the cost of each one of the enterprise funds separately. When we look at operational and capital strategies, what we're talking about is what is the cost of providing current operations? What are the capital needs associated with the current operations? What are our forecasted growth? What's the regulatory environment like? That's something that changes on an ongoing basis. As well as operational expansion. We talk about the fact that we have a growing system. The growth itself is covered through development impact fees, so new growth pays for growth. But once that service comes online, once that capital project comes online, the operations of it are covered by the rates that we have in place. Once we have determined what those costs are, we go through and figure out how the rates can be determined and allocated most equitably across all service groups by service area in a manner that makes them self-sufficient and covers the main operating costs of those services. The largest operational costs of our enterprise funds are personnel, chemicals, and electricity, and then debt. A lot of our capital projects are funded through debt, so we have debt service that's built in there. And one of the requirements we have to look at when we make sure that our funds are long-term sustainable from a financial standpoint is that we have debt coverage requirements met. We have to make sure that we take in enough revenue each year to cover all debt service that is issued, and that's something that's a covenant within our bond documents, and we actually have to cover it at 1.25 times. And then finally, we have to look at fund balance to make sure that we have adequate savings in place. There are two different factors on fund balance that we look at. One is the minimum fund balance, which is 15% of operating revenues according to council policy. And the second is any kind of additional fund balance we may need to absorb any fluctuations in revenues, fluctuations in expenditures for anything that unknown that may happen. Following that process, we have come visit with council, go through the presentation, and then start the public participation process. And that public participation process is absolutely key to how we move forward. I will talk later on about the comments that we have received to date and what our outreach efforts have been, because due to the direction of council, we made sure that this was an extremely transparent process. In the following slides, I'm going to discuss each individual service area in the growth, in the rates associated with those on the approval and the implementation. Starting off, we're going to look at water and wastewater. Water and wastewater, when we looked at the operational strategies or what's going on with operations, the items that are listed up here were the top factors that are impacting cost over the next 5 years. System growth. And when we talk about growth, it's not that the rates are paying for all the new people coming in. System growth is, as I said, taking on the operational cost of all of that equipment that is coming on that's being paid for by our development impact fees, as well as the operations of it, the eventual replacement and maintenance of it, and then just planning for that growth. More ratepayers means more equipment, more cost. but it also means more revenues coming in. So we have to make sure that the model and the rates that we set up factor in all of those things so that as more people, more revenue, more costs, that they all tie together. We do look forward to economies of scale as the system starts to grow. Economies of scale is a two-edged sword, though, in that eventually you get the economies of scale where everything is cheaper because you're buying in bulk. But when we introduce something new like a surface water treatment plant that is scaled to a larger size that we can grow into, the first few years when you go into it, it actually costs more to operate because there's fewer people using it. So the growth of the system really does have an impact on our operational costs in the long run as well as in the short run. Water quality matters. The one thing that you will see whenever you see comparisons for the city against other city utilities as well as private utilities is the city of Goodyear is pretty high. And one of the main reasons for that is the city of Goodyear currently is 100% on groundwater. Groundwater in our city is also extremely poor quality, which means we do have to do a lot of treatment on it. We have reverse osmosis facilities that are extremely expensive to operate to get our water up into a quality that it can be sent out as drinking water. In addition to the fact that we have to treat this poor quality water at the front end, that treatment process generates contaminants that then go into our wastewater system, increasing the cost of our wastewater system. So we got a lot of factors that are built in there that really do start to increase the overall cost of the product, and that's something that is built into these rates as well. And the last couple of different items that we have up here are some of the increased costs are our Central Arizona project cost. That is where we pay to recharge our water. Also, we have mixed in there is some of the long-term leases that we have for the acquisition of water rights from some of the Indian tribes. Those are two things that make sure that we have a 100-year continual water supply available. And I had mentioned earlier that energy use is something that we do have a lot of cost associated with. And one of the things a lot of our public comments talked about is everything keeps going up, especially utilities. We pay utilities as well with electricity. That is a major piece of our program. Moving on to the capital side, I've talked that we have a growing system, but we also have an aging system. On the growing side, it is paid for by development impact fees, so not the rates. We have $152 million of growth-related capital that is not reflected in the rate study. Those are paid through the development impact fees. What is reflected in the rate study in the next 5 years is $143.7 million worth of capital projects. And as you can see on this sampling of the major projects on there, they are all replacement, rehabilitation. It is maintaining the system that we have. We have to ensure that we have rates that are in place to maintain what we have and to keep it at the level so that it is safe and sound for providing water to our customers. Other large projects that you see up here are the brine disposal, which gets back to that water quality and changing regulatory environments. So when you look at our system and our capital, when we talk about growth, it's just the overall size of the system, but it's also the aging of the system that we have to prepare for. Moving on to what that entails then on the rate side, we have a lot of numbers up here, which is the 5-year rate study. This was for water. It was included in council packets as well as it's been available online for all to see. This is the proposed rates, and as I stated at the beginning, based on the public comments that we have received, our proposal is there is no action scheduled tonight, but there will be a proposal coming back to council where our goal is to make sure that in year one there is a 0% increase, that we do not increase any fees or introduce any new fees. And you will see that as we go through. We'll talk about that as we go through. What rates you see up here are the advertised rates. Just real quickly for anybody listening is the rates are broken out in two ways. One is the monthly minimum charge, which is based on the meter size. That's the impact a customer has on the meter. The bigger the meter, The bigger the impact, the more that that person pays, and that's a flat fee. After that, we have a volume rate, which is specifically designed to encourage conservation, and that's why the rate increases as the usage increases. Looking at the wastewater side, it is set up the exact same way, and these are the rates that were advertised and included in the study. And again, what we are looking at when it comes to actual adoption is dropping any kind of proposed increase in that first year so that the rates stay with what they currently are, and then reducing any rates in the years following that. The volume rate that you see here, for commercial customers, non-residential, it is charged based on 80% of their actual water usage, or they will actually have a sewer meter. For residential customers, it is based on their winter quarter average, which is the 3 months of January, February, March, where most people use the smallest amount of outside water. And then that is a flat fee from that point for the rest of the year. Moving on to sanitation. The number one factor in the sanitation that you're going to see is a reduced contract cost means a reduced rate charged to our customers. A year and a half ago, we went out and did a bid for services and right-of-way disposal, RAD. It won that bid. They're the ones with the big red sanitation trucks that drive around, and they came in significantly less than what we had been paying before. We are proposing that that savings gets passed right along to customers of our service. So the sanitation is weekly contained pickup, which is recycling and trash, which is done by RAD. Our uncontained pickup, or bulk trash, which is monthly and done by city staff. The third factor that really factors into how we are proposing this is the instability in the recycling market. Anybody who's picked up a newspaper, got on the internet, knows that that is going on, and that's something that we have to factor in to make sure we have consistent or available savings with anything we do with the rate. So the proposed rates that have been advertised show a reduction of $3 per month, increasing through 2025 for sanitation. We have relooked at that and believe that we can actually take that down to $4, and that'll be part of the proposal that you will be seeing. So what that means is every single resident in the city of Goodyear will be getting a $4 decrease on their bills once the proposed rates are reviewed and if accepted by council. Because what we are also saying is that there will not be an increase on any of the other rates. We did go forward with this with the $3 on a very conservative projection. We wanted to make sure that we maintained higher fund balances, and that's something that's consistent with sanitation, water, and wastewater. We wanted to make sure that we maintain those higher fund balance or savings due to any kind of uncertainty. For sanitation, it was the uncertainty around recycling. For water, it was the introduction of the new surface water treatment plant, or any other uncertain things that can come through. One of the things, as I was going through this, we started the rate study in December of 2019. There was no pandemic at that point. 3 months later, there's a pandemic, and that had an impact on our revenue and our rates coming in. Savings is something that helps us go through that. Moving on to stormwater. Stormwater is a new fee that has been proposed to fund this overall program. Stormwater is currently funded through the general fund. With increasing regulatory requirements, dedicated funding is something that we had been seeking. Overall, our Public Works Department began looking at stormwater and setting up a program back in 2019 and melded that in with our fee increase. As mentioned previously, our goal is to not have any kind of a rate increase this year, so we are pulling back the recommendation for a stormwater increase when we do come forward the next time, so there will be no new fee associated with stormwater in the proposed 5-year plan that will be coming forward. That really builds on the strength that we've been seeing in the general fund with our revenue collections. Everything that you've heard from staff in our updates is COVID has not impacted our revenue collection as much as we had anticipated. Keeping this a general fund activity will help make sure that we don't that we can, in a sense, pass that on to our customers. Non-rate fees are exactly that. Generally speaking, these are the miscellaneous fees charged for late payment, security deposits, new customer fees, activation, shutoff, and so on. Slight increases and decreases throughout there. These have also been advertised on our websites. Overall, the proposed rates as advertised would show that all Liberty Water customers, the majority of people who live north of I-10, would have received a $2 decrease on their overall bill since they are currently sanitation only. With the proposals that you're going to be seeing in the next couple council meetings, that will actually decrease to a $4 decrease since there will be no implementation of a stormwater and an additional decrease on the sanitation side. Buying down that fund balance and sanitation will help us do that. When we look at the customer who is throughout the entire city, that gets all of our services, water, wastewater, sanitation, and the new stormwater, one of the things we looked at from a recommendation from the rate committee was to lessen the impact in fiscal year, in the first year due to the pandemic. And that you can see there, the proposal, even with everything, was a 1.8% increase in that first year, increasing to around 4% thereafter. What we've heard from the public is that's really not enough of assistance right now with the pandemic going on, and why we're going to be coming forward with no increases for the first year. And we're going to go back and revisit the other years, years 2 through 4 as well, just to make sure that we've really fine-tuned those and we can bring something back to council for adoption that will be financially sustainable and viable in the long term. Overall, I wanted to talk about the public process because this has been an extremely transparent process that we have went through. First off, I'll just say the 4 items that are highlighted up on the slide there are the only 4 items that are required by state law when it comes to public notification. So you can see that based on council direction, we have went above and beyond making sure that we reached out to the public, and in the end of the day, it really helps because we got a lot of feedback from the public, and we're making sure that we can make adjustments that will then help the public. We did establish a citizen rate committee over a year ago now. So 13 months ago, council appointed a citizens rate committee. That rate committee began meeting in March, and their first meeting was actually in person because there was no shutdowns yet at that point. After that, we moved to a virtual environment and met through September for the Citizens Rate Committee, and they had a great impact on the proposal that was put before the council in his discussion about modifying today. We held a virtual open house that had 16 attendees at it. That was where staff was answering questions and going over the rate study and answering any questions that came up from the public. We sent a postcard to every single mailing address in the city to make sure that we captured current customers, business owners, people that weren't customers, renters, everybody, so that there was no chance of missing anybody. In addition, we sent an email to every single business in the city that has a business registration with an email on file. We've created a website that people were directed to that has all of the information about the rate committee. And from all of these outreach efforts, we received just under 300 responses through email from our customers. That public input from that 300 is broken down into 3 or 4, depending on how you look at it, main categories. The number 1 main category is the pandemic. With the pandemic, the economy, loss of jobs, now is not the time to do a rate increase. And we've heard that loud and clear and are discussing that with council this evening. Rates are already too high. We are looking again at those. There are a lot of reasons for that. Again, we as staff continue to look at how we operate to make sure that we can try to keep that as low as possible as long as we keep it strong and maintain our long-term viability. The next 2 I have broken out, but they were lock rate for seniors or low-income fixed rate for people of low income or on a fixed income. We have not proposed anything or plan on it in there. However, what we do want to remind everybody on council and are really increasing our outreach efforts is we do have assistance programs that are in place and available right now for those that are in need. We have a website set up, Goodyear Cares. If you search it, it'll bring you right to it. It talks about utility assistance, electricity assistance, all the programs that are available to our residents. So anybody who feels they are really challenged by the utility rates should go onto that and look for that assistance. And they will be able to find it there. So the revised rate proposal that we'll be bringing forward will address what we've heard from the public. The next steps are tonight with our public hearing will be public comment, and hopefully through the presentation we've addressed a lot of the concerns since we did get a lot of public comment already. Following that, we have another agenda item where council is able to discuss and provide some input on the proposed rates as well as any potential modifications. And then following that, we will bring back to council, currently tentatively scheduled for January 25th, a revised 5-year rate proposal that would have no rate increases in 2021, reduced sanitation fee, no new stormwater fee, but will definitely be financially viable and sustainable in the long run. And with that, I close my presentation.
Thank you very much. Are there any speaker cards?
Yes, Mayor, I still have the speaker card submitted back in December from Aura Beard. She submitted it electronically, so I'll go ahead and read it right now, if that's all right.
All right. And that, go ahead.
She begins, just a thought, with the pandemic going on and many people are out of work and trying to keep their basic living going, do we really have to increase the rates at this time? I'm a retired educator helping to support my granddaughter and her family due to their lost wages at this time. Many people here are in this situation. The rates are already ridiculously high. Would you want another pressure put on you at this time? Many families have children home that must be fed 3 times a day and sometimes all day. Families are going through a lot at this time. Can we have a little compassion and forgo this raise until another time? I know no one ever wants a raise in utilities, but a raise at this time could really push some families over the brink. And that's
Thank you very much. Any other cards?
No, Mayor.
All right. So since the cards are finished and there's nobody else, I'm going to close the public hearing. Although just ahead of time, there's no action on it. However, the next item will allow you to speak about the subject. So I'm going to close the public hearing. So now we're going to number 7. Is that correct? All right. This item is the opportunity to discuss for the council to discuss the public input, the recommendations to modify water, wastewater, solid waste, stormwater rates, and fee plans for 2021-25. And you have another presentation? Or
It's the same
just
presentation,
same
and I'll go through it
presentation.
again, or
I still have
we'll just let
Javier's
council
name on
discuss.
this, so I just want to make sure where we're at. All right, so we're open to questions.
Correct.
All right, council, it's in your lap. Who would like to start?
I'll start.
All right, Councilman Basillo?
First of all, I appreciate all the outreach that the staff has done and the feedback that they're incorporating within this. Unfortunately, 2020 has not been the greatest year, as we all know, with the pandemic. There's a lot of people that are actually impacted negatively out there. And as a result, I think what we're going to be seeing is some significant changes in which is going to be lowering some of those bills. I've got a few notes on here on the stormwater. I think general fund, we have some one-time money to help offset that in the first couple of years, as you had mentioned, which is going to end up, being not an impact. I think is good, especially as it impacts those north of 10. As I've always said before, I'm not a big fan of using property taxes because we're in multiple. But I also think the fact that that's a small impact of the property tax bill that includes some of the water is that the stormwater subsidy with the general fund, and I also believe the sanitation reduced rates kind of compensates for that. So it's kind of a wash. But going forward in the future for any of the, what I have down here for any of that maintenance going forward, I know we're kind of limited if we have I don't believe, GO bonds available for water, even though we do have some for wastewater. I hope in the future we don't use any of those, at least on the wastewater side, to cover any of those costs. Because with the multiple water companies, it's important that the enterprise fund stay enterprise. Now, using some of that general fund upset, I think is good. Using some of our reserves, I think is good because of these tough times. As long as those reserves don't drop below, and I know we've had this discussion, a point which kind of mitigates us being able to take care of emergencies. And I think what people are going to be saying will actually address that issue. And again, I can't stress enough on the outreach. The letter, I got one, and I'm north of 10. I got one with all that, even though sanitation and stormwater does affect me. And the comments that we all got and addressing them, and I do believe that the rates that are coming in really address that because of what's going on out there in this environment. So I appreciate all your efforts, all your tweaking, all the work that's gone into this to try to deliver a product that our citizens. Now, when it comes to water rates, it's like a lot of other things out there that you try to compare, whether it's employees per thousand or the city that has a long, narrow versus something that's compact. There's so many variables, as you mentioned out there, and I hope the public realizes you go east, they get with the SRP money. Some of them already have established above ground water purification systems. We're just now starting to grow with above ground, and it's very expensive with RO systems and purifying the water on the bringing it up from the ground. So there's a lot of apples and oranges in there when you try to compare these systems in there. And I do believe staff does a very good job of trying to find the most efficient way of developing some of our capital improvements, and we are still growing to get to there. But anything you can do to try to offset some of those increases, I know is greatly appreciated, and I do believe our citizens would greatly appreciate that as well. And again, I can't emphasize
Thank
enough.
you for your enthusiasm, and you're right, but I need to get the council on this. Everybody is kind of wanting to put their opinion in, so Councilman Loretano.
I will agree with Councilman Pizzillo on this. I think you guys did a fantastic job in the staff of the outreach and knowing that I think it's important for the citizens to know that this was a citizens committee and it was started pre-COVID. Right. And I appreciate the fact that, you know, with the things changing, that we were willing to change too and try to do what we can, and that we have those programs out there for people. And if we can make sure that those keep getting out there so people know there are programs for help. I'm a small business owner. I understand what they're saying. You know, my income's probably down at least 50%. So we are not tone deaf. We know what's going on. It affects all of us in this city, and I appreciate the city stepping up to try to figure a way. And then my only question is if 2021 isn't much better, I mean, we can also look at those rates as we go on, right? We just have to set rates, right?
Correct. What we're doing is we are adopting a 5-year plan based on council policy. That is something that once put in place really does help when it comes to our bond rating agencies, to 5-year forecasts and so on. It's something that's very strong. It is something that if the economy is really bad, if anything's going on that we wanted to readdress it, it would take us coming and bringing it back to council to stop an increase from going into place. But it is something that is within the purview of council to do.
And I appreciate it. I think that's important for the citizens to know that there is that ability out there, that if things don't improve to where we think they are, that we can relook this. The staff can say, hey, this is an advisement how we can make things work. So I appreciate you and staff's very hard work on this. Thank you. And the Citizens Committee.
Vice Mayor?
You know, to kind of echo all of those points, I think the thing that's really important for us to, or the public to understand is this, you showed those 4 red areas on your PowerPoint. These are the only ones that were required. And that includes that public comment period, which is where you get to hear it. Up until that point, it's very administrative. So it initially seems as though the city is tone deaf to what's happening. But all we were doing was administratively following what we had to do to get to this point to be able to have this conversation. And I think us being flexible enough to say, look, we are not gonna do a rate increase in year 1 really shows that responsiveness to that. And, you know, I will echo everyone's, you know, thanks for both the Citizen Rate Committee, for the staff, for everybody to work on this. The fact that our rates appear to be higher than they're already high enough was one of the comments. Takes me back to my days on AMWA when we talked about an acre foot of water in Arizona being $179 an acre foot, where in California it was $714 an acre foot. Water in Arizona is not cheap, period. And if you look back, since we've been having this 75th anniversary discussion and all the rest of that, I've kind of gone through in my mind the 20 years now that I've lived here in the city. When I came here, we were 16,000 people. We were still using the same water system, the same mentality in 2001 that we are essentially today. And it's getting that Central Arizona Project water to the city and getting it here, unfortunately, 20 years later. It's just costing us more to get there. But adjusting these rates, being responsive to what's happening in the world with the pandemic, and not raising or not even instituting the rate increase for 2021 is really important. And I think having the tool in our toolbox to be able to do the same thing in 22 if necessary should give everybody a little sigh of relief. So thanks. I look forward to the discussion on the 25th.
Councilmember Campbell.
Excuse me. Well, thank you very much, Doug. You and your staff have done an outstanding job in the outreach and in presenting why we're doing what we do. It's interesting to note that without Goodyear providing the water, there would be really no development south of I-10. And unfortunately, you're right, we have to use groundwater, and groundwater that comes up has to be treated extensively. Chemicals cost a lot of money, and we have to somehow work that cost out. But I appreciate you proposing that we not raise our rates next year and that we'll take another look at it even in 22 to see if it's necessary to hold off yet another year. And I understand we do have to have a 5-year forecast out there for our bonding authorities. And I appreciate you putting this plan together. And I know our residents appreciated us having the outreach, and they know we've listened to them. So thank you very much.
Councilman Kano.
Well, I want to add my thanks to you, Doug and Javier, to staff, and then the Citizen Rate Committee as well. And thankful for the citizen involvement. Those of us who live north of the freeway, we don't get much of a say. It goes to the Corporation Commission, and it's just a whole different thing. And municipal water definitely is close to the people. And so it's good that we're having these great conversations. I'm really pleased to hear that we're deferring the increase for year one and looking at it again, see what this year brings. I'm really also pleased that the city's been so proactive on conservation, because that's definitely a way that people can help self-manage their expenses. One of my questions is about the average usage is 7,000 gallons, correct, which is 6,000 in tier 1, and then puts you into the higher tier for the rest of the use. And at some point looking to see if we can get the average into tier 1, so that way that would probably help address people being able to budget and such. So I'm again, having worked for Phoenix Water, I know that the expenses are legit. I know that unfunded mandates often come down from the federal and the state, which can wreak havoc with you financially, and that all rate increases are very difficult, but appreciate the care and concern and the thoroughness that we do here in Goodyear.
Thank you. Councilmember Hampton.
Yeah, everybody's already said a lot of what I was going to say as well, but I do also appreciate the public outreach, the year's worth of public outreach and all of the touch points that we had with the public, and then all the comments that came in, because to everybody's point, I mean, water is something that everybody uses every single day, so everybody's very passionate about it. So, but yeah, I do appreciate that we're not going to raise the rates, that we are taking into account COVID and also have the ability to continue that into another year if COVID or economics don't work out the way that we foresee. So thank you for that. And then also to Amwaz and the people on the board who have done that in the past. Yeah, Goodyear is different than other cities, and when the charts come out showing that Goodyear is this much money compared to others, it's really not comparing apples to apples. So a lot of people use property tax, they use different funding sources, they don't have all the same costs in there. So when people say we're high, we are high, but we're not. But you can't compare. It's hard to compare us to other places as well. So, and to our point, we are different. We're a new city, and we're going to continue to have infrastructure and growth because we're such a fast-growing city. I mean, there are some growing pains that we're going to be having along the way with our fire stations, our water treatment facility. So there's a lot of different things that will continue because we don't have the robust infrastructure like the East Valley might have, or other cities that have been maybe around for longer, or just have more residents that we've had since the 1995 or 2000, early 2000. So yeah, so I appreciate it, and I look forward to us when we actually do approve the rates in a couple weeks from now. So thank you.
Thank you, Council. Everybody had some very meaningful words to say. I want to thank the staff. I want to particularly thank you when I alerted that I did not want this to be sent to the next council meeting. I didn't want people to go another week or 2 weeks with fear and not knowing how they were going to pay. I'm learning that lesson late in life, and so it's very important. I think that this proves that this council and this staff listens to public comments. And this is all, again, about quality of life. And we can stand up and proudly say we get things done, and we listen to our citizens. Sometimes, of course, we always have some differences, but we try to manage most of them that become acceptable. So I want to thank council along with staff. And Doug, you do such a great job on your presentation. You're so thorough. It's such a clear picture. I took notes tonight because it is such a clear picture and precise and understandable. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I'm now going to turn this over to our city clerk. It says on here, I turn this over, we're going to page 5. Is that correct?
We're going to go back to item number 5, yes.
Okay. I'm going to give Doug a few minutes. There are 2 public hearings on the agenda tonight. The first public hearing is a continuation of an item we began on December 14th and is considered the use permit for drive-through for the Boza Donuts. The public hearing was held, and we have a motion on the table from Councilmember Campbell with a second by Vice Mayor Stipp to approve the use permit. So we have our presenter, Alex Latinsky, and she will give you additional information for tonight. Alex?
Thank you, Mayor. I apologize. I had the wrong presentation up there. Tonight, I just have 2 updates for you. The main thing I would like to update you is that the applicant and the Boza Donuts owner, who's also the property owner, is here tonight to provide an update from their...
I know it's difficult with the mask, but
Oh.
would you...
We can't understand you.
I'm sorry. I forgot I had it on.
Step over, please.
Thank you. The main thing, there's 2 main items I would just like to update you on tonight. The applicant, a representative of the architect, and the property owner, who's also the Boza Donuts owner, is here tonight to provide an update to you. And then I just did want to reiterate that the use permit does comply with the city's civil traffic engineering standards and zoning requirements, and staff does still hold the position to recommend approval. Any matters between the Property Owners Association and the applicant would need to be settled between those two parties. If there is any substantial changes to the layout of the drive-through, that would need to go back through the use permit process and come back before the council. I did not plan on repeating my presentation from the last meeting, but I can do it again if you'd like. And then I do believe the city traffic engineer is here to answer any additional questions you might have.
Thank you very much. You're welcome. Okay. All right. So any additional council discussion on this? Councilman Hampton.
So I just want to verify. So the property owner and the property HOA, did they ever come to an agreement? I don't see any changes in here, so I just wanted to see if there was any resolution there.
Thank you, Councilmember Hampton. The applicant is here and can provide that update himself, both of them.
Any other questions? Yes, Councilman Fazella.
Have him come up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, Councilman Hampton, I didn't hear that.
Hello, good evening. My name is Tim Rasnick, and I'm with the architect working with us on this project. We did have a couple conversations with Dan and then also Dorothy. Part of the issue was...
Can you explain who... Mr. Silveira was the gentleman here at the last council meeting. Dorothy is with the property management.
With the property management, yes.
Yes. Did you give your name and did you get his name for your notes, your minutes?
We can look at the
right,
recording.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, there's the issue with the traffic. There was some explanation that needed to be done. This is, again, a Bosa Donuts, where the bulk of their business is done in the morning. It's done from like 6 o'clock. I believe they open at 5, and their rush is between 5 and 10 at the latest. So because of the smallness of the lot, it's a very compact lot. There was very limited design to where to put this drive-through. So we tried to maximize the lot size and get the most out of the retail side of the build, because it'll eventually have two different users. One will be the Bosa Donuts, will be the bulk of it, but there'll be a small retail space available. So we took the drive-through around the outside of the property as close as we could on either side of where the land, would allow us to do. So we don't find that this will be any traffic impact because, like I said, most of the traffic will happen in the morning. So it should be able to line up. We way over, I think, the 150 feet required by drive-through by the standards. So if we get into this, it'll take another 6 to 8 months to build, probably, by the time we get through permitting. So by that time, maybe the COVID thing will settle down a little bit and the drive-through won't be as demanding on certain properties. But we don't see any issue just because of the use. It's not a coffee shop. It's not a Chick-fil-A. I mean, it's not a high-use drive-through. So I think that was part of the concerns of Dan. So, and the other issues with Dorothy, we're still trying to work out. She seemed to have some issues with color and form of the proposed building. We're still trying to figure out what color pattern to use, but I understand that that's not an issue with council as far as that's a minor issue with staff. So we're still in the middle of that, just as far as of tonight. So I think the biggest issue was the traffic issue. So does that help at all?
It does for council, I'm sure. They may have a question, so.
I have one question.
All right, Councilman Campbell.
Can you see the map we're looking at? Is this Roosevelt here or is Roosevelt here? Top or bottom?
Top.
It's going to be to the left of Frederico's, who has a drive-through.
Is that? I'm not real familiar. Let's get the.
Yeah.
Filiberto's is here.
Filiberto's is way down there.
Frederico? I'm sorry, I think that's a hair
Bertos,
place.
yeah.
Sorry. Filiberto's.
So
Okay.
our arrow, that's our lot right there.
Well, I've been through Filiberto's 1,000,001 times. Sometimes there's a line, sometimes there's not a line.
Mm-hmm.
Depends on the time of the day. And we can move very easily in that shopping center. I've never had an issue. Where I have an issue is at Augie's
Okay.
on down. That's where I have an issue. I can't get through.
And Augie's, is it generally from 11 a.m. to afternoon and evening, correct?
Yeah, late.
Okay, we're taking up the morning.
Yeah.
We're not taking up any of the afternoon.
I think I like the location. I love Boston Donuts. I go to the one up by the base.
Okay.
I like to go inside and have a Diet Coke and donuts
And sit,
rather
yeah.
than the drive-through. So I hope COVID hurries up and goes away so we can go inside.
And it is the size space that would allow some interior inside dining.
It is nice, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you.
Councilman Pizzillo?
Am I hearing correctly, the HOA and you are on the same page?
I believe so, as far as the drive-through?
Yes.
Yes, I believe so. I have not heard anything else from anybody. Again, the color issue may still be outstanding. I can't 100% verify that.
Councilman Hampton?
Yeah, that's what I was verifying as well, just that you were on the same page as the property HOA, that you guys had that conversation and that you guys were aligned now. So, because I didn't see any changes, so I just wanted to make sure that you guys came to an agreement. Because I definitely want BOSA here, and I know you guys will be busy, so I just want to make sure that it's set up for success for the whole plaza. So I think I'm good now.
As far as I know.
Yep.
Vice Mayor Stipp?
So all we're doing tonight is the special use permit for the drive-through.
Correct.
So, we tabled this in order to give the property owners association an opportunity to work with the applicant. I'm in full support of moving forward with this. We allowed in this same shopping center a drive-through in the middle of a building.
Yeah.
How could we say no to a drive-through on a standalone facility? I mean, it just, so if we're worried about making this a quote-unquote mistake, then we have to go way back in time and try to correct everything else. This is a good project. You've got my support.
Thank you.
Any other comments? All right. Thank you very much for coming up and explaining that. I think it was very helpful. Okay, with no additional discussion, we're going to vote on this. All those in favor of approving the use permit for a drive-through restaurant for BOSA Donuts at Parkway Village, subject to stipulation, say aye.
Aye.
Congratulations. All right.
Thank you.
So now we'll go to the business. I'd like to remind council to wait for motion second before discussion. The next item of business is consider adopting resolution 2020-2114 regarding the Recreation Aquatics Center fee schedule. David Side, Parks and Rec Manager. Hello. And Michael, we always say that's wrong. Beatle. Yeah, I know. You never want to say Beetle, though. Okay? Beetle. There we go. All right, gentlemen, you've got it.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year. Tonight's presentation is another milestone moment for the new recreation campus set to open later this year. An important step in ensuring this facility meets the expectations of the community is a clear and easy to understand fee schedule that not only provides everyone in the community an opportunity to participate, but one that also allows the city to operate the facility in a responsible manner. In addition to the recreation campus fee recommendations, we will also be presenting updated park amenity rental fees that will apply to not only the Goodyear Recreation Campus, but other reservable amenities within the entire Goodyear Park system. Lastly, the department is also seeking delegation of authority to the Parks Director that allows the city flexibility when working on unique or complex proposals that would benefit the city, such as large tournaments, unique seasonal exhibits, or other multi-use days that may bring economic activity. As you can see from the project timeline before you, A lot of work has gone into getting us to this point. Specific to fees, the Parks Department worked with the city's fee consultant, MGT, researched similar fees schedules of like facilities both statewide and locally, sought input from numerous community stakeholder groups, met internally as a department staff, and also obtained the support and approval from the Parks and Recreation Advisory Commission. All of this input, in addition to feedback received at the October 19th, 2020 Council Work Session, has created a fee recommendation that we are very excited to share. The fees we are sharing tonight are the fees associated for the recreation and aquatics facilities, as well as the system-wide facility rental fees such as ball field rentals and Ramada reservations. I will now turn the presentation over to Recreation Superintendent Mike Beadle to walk us through some category definitions, the actual facility fee schedule itself, and the request for delegation of authority for the Parks and Recreation Department to apply discounts.
Thank you, Dave. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, I am here to share with you, as Dave mentioned, the Recreation and Aquatic Center passes, as well as our system-wide park user fees. Over the next several slides, we'll look at those fees in detail, but I would like to start with some definitions. We have further defined since our work session some of our criteria, and we've also updated some definition based on council feedback. So as you can see on the slide, we have defined some of our categories. So youth as 3 to 17 years of age, adults 18 to 54, seniors 55 plus, and then family. And family is the one I do want to focus a little bit on based on the discussion of council previously. Our previous definition for family was 2 adults and 2 children in a family. We have expanded that definition to be defined as a minimum of 1 adult and an unlimited number of dependents residing in a single household. Non-dependents will be eligible for individual passes and scholarships where applicable. But again, we wanted to expand that definition to include a better definition of family. We've also additionally updated our discounts to include a military discount. And so all active and former duty members and their immediate families in a single household will receive a 15% military discount on all passes for the Goodyear Recreation Campus. The last one, again, as David mentioned, is our delegation of authority, and this really just gives us the ability to offer discounts, such as the military discounts where there's extenuating family circumstances, there's community benefit, or there's a complex reservation or something, a special circumstance at the recreation campus. On this slide, we are going to jump into fees. So these are the proposed fees for the Recreation and Aquatic Center. As a quick reminder, they are conjoined facilities, so a pass into the facility gets you into both centers. We don't have a separate fee for the Aquatic Center and a separate fee for the Recreation Center. One pass, one ticket gets you into the whole facility. As you can see, on the left side, we did develop these fees based on benchmarks such as Rio Vista, Tumbleweed, and Casa Grande Recreation Center. So we looked at our benchmark average, and then we also looked at the philosophy of keeping our passes for residents as affordable as possible and having a bit of a higher cost for non-residents. So, but our goal really and our focus was on those non-resident or on those resident passes to keep them as affordable as we could. Again, as another reminder, the facilities at the recreation campus are community level assets. We're not trying to compete with private businesses such as Lifetime Fitness. We have basic introductory level fitness equipment. We have a walking track. We have a basketball gym. These are community level assets. And so our fees reflect the basic nature of those amenities. And then at the bottom, again, we've referenced some of our discounts. And I do want to reference our military discount. We have reduced costs for seniors and youth and family in the facility. And we also have a very robust scholarship program that we are expanding to include all members of the family. Previously, we had it as a youth scholarship program for a lot of our program-based fees. We're expanding that to include that for all members of the family. So our goal for this proposal and for all of our discounts is that no Goodyear family goes without. We are going to go above and beyond to ensure that all families and residents of Goodyear have the opportunity to experience and take advantage of all of the amenities and the fun things that are going to be happening inside the Recreation Center. Next up, we have the actual rentals that will take place inside the Recreation and Aquatic Center. So once again, we have our different categories up top, and then the facilities and amenities themselves, and then the rental rates that lie within those. So we have our resident rate, our non-resident rate, and our organized use rate. One thing to note about our organized use rate is Goodyear businesses that are not charging a fee for use, so they're not making money off the facility, will be charged the resident rate. So an example of that would be if Goodyear Little League comes in and wants to run their coaches meeting inside one of our multi-purpose rooms. They are an organization, but they're not making money off of that space, and so they would be charged the resident rate. Again, we're trying to make it as affordable as possible for our residents and our partners in the community, and so they would be charged the cheapest rate, which is our resident rate within there. And then finally, before you tonight, we have our system-wide park rental fees. So these fees are an adjustment to a current fee that we have, and these are applied to all of our park amenities, including the recreation campus, but they will be applied to our other parks like Goodyear Community Park and Foothills Park. Again, as you can see, we have our current rates, and then we have our proposed rate. We have our resident, non-resident, and organized use. That organized use definition also applies to our park rental fees. So again, Goodyear Little League or one of our partners, Goodyear businesses, are going to fall into this resident rate. They won't fall into the organized use rate unless they're coming to bring in a outside tournament that's not serving the residents of Goodyear, and they're charging a gate fee to get into the tournament or something like that. They would fall in the organized use rate. But if they are a Goodyear business, they're going to fall into the resident rate. As you can see, really the resident rate off our current fees goes unchanged. The only significant difference is our fields. And there you'll actually see a reduction in our rate for fields. We heard loud and clear during our outreach to the community and also with our Parks and Recreation Advisory Commission that our field rates were very high compared to other cities and other benchmarks. And as we look through those benchmarks, we recognize that that is the case. And so we took this opportunity to actually reduce that cost for residents. So, currently we are charging for a 2-hour rental, $40 for the field. We're actually proposing to reduce that to $20 for a 2-hour rental, which is very affordable for those residents and those resident organizations to take advantage of. And with that, I will pass it back to Dave.
Great, thanks, Mike. And with that, the Parks Department respectfully requests council consideration for approval of Resolution 2020-2114, adopt the Recreation and Aquatic Center fee schedule, amend the current system-wide park rental fees, and provide delegation of authority to the Parks Department for discounts. If approved, the fees would be in place to take effect on January 18th, with a comprehensive marketing campaign for the Recreation Campus set to commence in February. And with that, we conclude our presentation.
Thank you for that presentation. Are there any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Would anybody in the audience like to speak? Will the city clerk please read resolution number 2020-2114 by title only, please?
Adopt resolution number 2020-2114, approving and adopting the Recreation and Aquatic Center fee schedule, adopting a military discount, amending the system-wide park rental fees, and adopting fees for services at city parks, and providing for an effective date of the resolution and fees.
Thank you. Can I have a motion a second to approve resolution 2020-2114? Do I hear that motion?
So moved.
Second.
I heard a motion by Councilman Hampton, and a second by Councilman Pizzillo. Open for council discussion. Councilman Campbell. Thank you, Bill.
I have a logistics question. If I buy my annual pass, can I go to everything anytime without any additional fee?
Great question. Thank you, Councilmember Campbell. Absolutely. So all of our basic amenities will be open. So if you purchase an annual pass, there's unlimited number of visits. So you can come in twice a day. You can come in 10 times a day if you'd like. There will be additional fees if there are programs and things that are happening within the facility. So if you want to have a swim lesson or you want to participate in swim team, there are additional fees for those programs. But if you just want to come in with your family, take advantage of the great amenities, go swim in the pool, absolutely, you can do that as often as you'd like.
Are we going to be offering fitness classes or
absolutely
Zumba or Zumba or whatever it is?
Group fitness, Zumba, Pilates, yoga, yes. we will be offering those. Those won't be included in the base rate for the fee. That would be
Yeah,
a
that'd be a
program-based
class fee. So when can we buy an annual fee? In February, or can we buy them January 18th?
Councilmember Campbell, very good question. The fees we have set to go in effect January 18th. We are still finalizing kind of our marketing and advertising campaign for the launch of the rec center, if you will. And also we need a little bit of time to get these new fees entered into our recreation software system. So we do have a little bit of work to do, but we're thinking early February to the second week of February at the latest. So it'll be here soon.
Well, I hope you'll consider mailing or your outreach to all the residents in the city, just like we did for the rate increases, so that everyone will know that you're going to offer these wonderful rates for them, because I know a lot of families are excited to be able to take advantage of it.
Thank you for that.
You.
Councilman Hampton.
Yeah, thank you so much for retooling and looking at the rates again as well for the family definition, and then relooking at how competitive we are, like field rates and things like that. So I do appreciate that. I know the families are real excited, like Councilman Campbell said as well. Councilwoman Campbell. And I was curious, logistic as well. I know you mentioned, for like the example was the Goodyear Little League wants to come in and utilize the room. Everybody who goes to that meeting would also have to pay a day fee, correct? To be able to go and participate in that Little League meeting, correct?
Councilmember Hampton, great question. So if a resident or somebody is coming to the facility for a specific program or a rental, they would not have to pay a daily pass fee. They would be able to have access to that space or to that room for use, but they wouldn't have to pay a rate to get into the building unless they wanted to utilize the building. So if they wanted to go to the meeting and then go hit the gym afterwards or go shoot hoops afterwards, they would have to pay it at that point. But if they were just coming in for that specific purpose, whether it's a class or a program or a rental, they wouldn't have to pay the daily rate to get in.
And a follow on to that. So if a business wants to come in and host a seminar or something like that, that'd be a different rate. And all those people that were going to the seminar, they don't get charged to go to the seminar.
Correct.
Same
Yeah.
scenario.
Again,
okay.
Unless they wanted to go out and jump in the pool afterwards.
Yeah.
Unless they're using the facility outside of what the program or rental is for, they wouldn't need to pay that.
No, I like that as well. And then the second thing is there an inflation rider on this, or inflation? If for some reason do to keep coming to us every so often when the rates keep going up and up and up, or is it do something built in to where it will increase over time?
Thank you. Great question, Councilmember Hampton. At this time, we don't have inflation factored in. We're planning on setting these rates, and then we're going to review them regularly to ensure that we have our cost recovery goals hit, and then as needed, we'll come back to council to reset and post those additional rates.
Okay, I guess that's what we do with everything else. So, okay, I thank you.
Councilman Loretano.
Thank you both very much. I'm very excited for it to open. It'll be a great amenity, and especially now people are going to be so excited to go do something, especially with that outdoor space. I had one question about the family rate, which I didn't really think of before we were going over it. Like I have an 18-year-old, lives at home, in high school still. Is that part of my family, or do I have to buy him a separate ticket since we're still in the same family?
So great question. Thank you, Councilmember Loretano. So if you claim them as a dependent, if they're a dependent in your household, whether they're going to college, as long as their primary residence is your house, then they would be considered still a dependent. So yeah, so we're considering even if you go away for college during the year, but if you still claim home is home and your parents still claim you on their taxes, you're still considered a dependent for us, and so you would be eligible for that family pass.
So when they come home to get their laundry done, they can go to the rec center.
They can go to the rec center.
Okay, it's great. I will be the second one after Wally, who apparently is going to be the first one in line.
I am.
So I will be second for my family pass. My other question is, because for opening, so even if we buy it early, that I assume, just so people know this, the opening, the year starts from the date that it opens.
That is correct, yes. So the annual pass will be the day that you buy it. Whenever you buy it, it'll be good for a year regardless of when you purchase it.
Well, I'm excited. I drive by and I go, oh, look, they have grass up, or they're working on the roof. So I am so excited. So thank you both.
Vice Mayor Stitt.
I was very excited when the presentation was coming back because I know that you had made changes to the family structure, and I really appreciate that. I think that's really important for those larger families. I was a little hurt tonight when I saw that 55 and older is considered senior.
That's right. Right.
That's in the rearview mirror, but I just crossed a threshold tonight, so thank you for making me feel human. But
You have more coming. You know that.
Yeah, well,
This is
theoretically.
just the beginning.
Yeah, if I use my actual birthday. But I do have a question and a thought. And I had raised this to staff last week. We just had this discussion about the water rate increase. And since the rec center is only going to be open for 6 or 7 months this year, perhaps we offer the first year at no charge and let the fees take effect January 1st of 2022. According to the information that staff provided, that would be a cost to us between $75,000 and $150,000, and we've got $10 million of COVID money offsetting some of our general fund. I know that there's concern about overuse of the facility, but I think you're going to have that anyway. I think no matter whether we charge for it or not, we're going to have an overuse situation. And maybe the novelty will wear off for some, and those that are really serious about it will take it up in January. But I think it would be a good thing for our residents not to have to pay to use a brand new facility that we went and spent a lot of their taxpayer money on, and that we're going to charge them for it. Just residents, just obviously Goodyear residents, and just for the calendar year 2021, that the rates become effective on January 1st of the rates for the campus. I got to make sure we word that correctly, but I think that would be a really good gesture on our behalf. Again, taking COVID and the pandemic into play. Perhaps this might be the only breath of fresh air that some of our residents get this year. And for them to have to pay for a family to come in and use the brand new facility that the tax money just put up, I think we're sending the wrong message, and we've got an opportunity to do something good.
Sherry, does somebody have any comment to that?
I do, but I bet
before
Joe
we go
does.
into another question. Comment, go ahead.
Yeah, my concern, Vice Mayor, would be the rentals. I think they could be overused or overburdened. It's like the old saying, when things are free, people have a tendency to jump on board. And I'd be more concerned about any of the rentals or the rooms, fee for any of that type of stuff to be gone with no fee for 6 months. I can appreciate getting into the building. I don't know about 6 months, but I can say a ride for getting into the building, but I'd be concerned about the rentals. Rental fees being free for that long of a period of time on the usage of the ball fields, the usage of the.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the annual pass. There'd be no fee if you can bring that slide back up. Sure. I'm talking about the passes for the recreation and aquatic center only. That you don't have to have a pass to get in.
You're not talking about the rentals.
Not a free ride on everything else. I'm talking about just getting into the aquatic center, that you can use that, take it for a test drive, and then make a financial commitment to it.
Councilman Loretano?
I appreciate that, and like I said, I want to make sure it's just residents, but I think you still are going to have to pay someone to figure out who's a resident, because we have this problem with the Star Point. Who's a resident, who's not a resident? Are they a part of your household? Because I assume when you do something, you have to show that these are my household members, so it's not like, I'm not bringing my son and his 14 friends. I'm not quite sure how that would be in the expense of the employees. What I think might actually be even a better way to do it would be to greatly expand the scholarships and the passes and to teachers, to first responders, to grocery store workers, to some of our frontline workers, maybe include them, because this gives you the authority to, the director, the authority to basically work with different passes, right?
At different times, you're saying.
At different times. So maybe
not a
that
whole
might,
basket at one time.
That might be a way to give our frontline workers that have been working through COVID, because I would be concerned if we did it, then we've got our employees, and it just doesn't seem like, it seems like it should be more than $150,000.
It's only half a year.
but $150,000 for all the employees and everything. I'm not quite sure how the cost recovery, it doesn't seem to add up, and I didn't see the numbers, but I think it's a great heartfelt thought. But my thing is, I'm not sure how you implement it to make sure it works.
Yeah, I would like to see them come back, be able to take this out and look at it, and not something we just okay on a suggestion. The budget is the budget, and so that's my opinion. I'm sorry I spoke out.
That's okay.
Councilman Campbell.
So I was just going to say, if I go and buy my annual pass in, say, May or June for $250, that would take me through to the next year in May or June. So if you want to have staggering dates of when people actually renew, that's a good way to do it, is the day you buy it, then it's a year later. Or arbitrarily give everyone 16 or 18 months for the first year. If we open in June or July or August, let them buy the 2-year pass, and they've still given you the revenue, but then they're good for the rest of that year and then all of the next year. I don't know if that can be done, but I'll be honest, I have never gone free anywhere to any facility, regardless of its age. I mean, I can't even go to the YMCA free, and I'm a Goodyear resident. I do have to pay. I mean, it's a lower fee. So while I appreciate saying we ought to give them something free, I don't think we can do it and maintain our budget. I really don't. And people that buy the annual pass, they're going to either look into it and come several times before they use that money to see if they're really going to use it enough, or the ones that buy it outright know that they're going to be there to get their whatever the amount of money is. They're not going to just buy it just to be buying it. They'll do the day passes. And I think the day passes are very reasonable for them to come in and take a look. Maybe we have a free open house for the first week and let everybody come in and look around and try it out and, I don't know, have coffee and donuts or something. But
sure.
Bosa Donuts, yes, thank you. And, maybe that's how we introduce it to our residents. The first 2 weeks are free. Everybody come take a look. And then you got to have a pass, or you have to pay the day pass or something.
And Mayor, Councilmember Campbell, I think that's something that we could do is modify that effective date for just those resident facility use passes of the rec center and the aquatics facility. If you wanted to entertain a few weeks, no fee required, or a month, or if there's council direction to do that administratively, we don't have any concerns being able to implement that. We just want to have clear direction on what that looks like.
Yeah, sure. I'm good with what everybody else said, but I just think we should charge unless we give them a free week, like I get in the mail, come to Lifetime Fitness for 1 week, or you get to try it and no fee, but I haven't done that either, so.
Councilmember Kano?
Well, I think that Vice Mayor's suggestion it warrants some careful consideration, and I think that there is an opportunity to show some generosity to our community in this difficult time. What the length of time is, I don't know. Maybe that's for you guys to balance out, but maybe it's the summer of swimming or something, but I would love to have that explored a little bit and come back and see what possibilities are available. My initial question was about the annual pass for a family, which I think you've done great work, but it might be hard on some families to come up with $600 at one time for that, or the semi-annual. Do you have envisioned payment plans, how families can do that?
Yep. Thank you, Councilmember Kano. Yes, absolutely. We have month-to-month passes, and then we have, payment plans that they can go on. We also, again, have the scholarship program. And so if that $600 a year is a financial burden, we're going to work with those families to make sure that they can still get into the facility and still enjoy all the amenities. So financial shouldn't be a barrier for people to come into the building for us.
Yeah, because I was just wondering about writing that $600 check or whatever. It could be tough. All right. Thank you.
Councilmember Hampton?
Yeah, I also I like the idea of Councilman Stibbs' suggestion as well. I'd like to explore it as well. So whatever that looks like, like I said, if it's a shorter time frame or if it's the whole time, I am worried about if everybody in Goodyear goes there and what that's going to look like to the new facility and the maintenance costs that we're going to have to recoup. But I think it would be a great gesture. So I just, logistically, I'd be curious what that looks like and what that looks like to the budget too. Maybe it is just come swim every Saturday of the summer type thing, or I don't know, so something that I think would be a nice gesture. Because, like I said, we just spent lots of money on this facility with public dollars, and might be a nice gesture to do something like that. So, thank you.
Basillo?
Yeah, I think the time period could be debatable, but I still think you need to issue the pass. Whether that pass has zero, that's the way of you screening whether they're a resident or a non-resident. So you issue the pass, all right? If the pass is 0 for 6 months, or if the pass is 18 months for 12 months, you know what I mean? So you get a free 6 month. But you got to issue the pass because that's the only way you're going to screen who's coming in and who's not coming in. Because if you don't have the pass, you don't know whether they're residents or non-residents. And I don't have a problem giving our residents a credit for that, but I want to make sure that the residents are getting the break on that.
And Councilmember Pizzillo, just to respond, we would do everything as if they were paying. We would create the household account. We would issue them barcode to scan as they come in. We would track all of the statistics. It would just be a no-fee pass. After hearing some of the comments, I'm just wondering if we can arrive at a date that we would want them to become effective. We anticipate late May. We're very hopeful for a Memorial Day opening or very near that date. So if we wanted to have that free trial grace period, maybe council entertains those fees for residents become effective October 1st. If there's interest in going to January 1st, maybe that's an option as well. We just want to make sure that we're carrying out the policy direction that you provide staff. But the rec center's coming, and it's coming soon, and we'd like to get these fees posted.
I think, I'm going to speak up. I think that there were many suggestions tonight, but I personally would rather have you go back at the table and look what the ideas were and give us the cost of that, and be able to use that incentive as an excitement to get people there at certain times when all of a sudden the traffic is slow. I'd like you to, they say in sales, give you something in your pocket to use. So I think all the ideas were good, but I'm not willing to go along without seeing exactly what the numbers are. Because it may be one suggestion is just too much and then the other one will work, or a combination will work. So I think the council is being very generous tonight, and I'm not against being generous, but I'm uncomfortable with this type of thing. We've given you staff direction, and you've come up with a beautiful facility. And at this point, I don't want to do anything to harm it. I want you to keep going, and you know what they're saying, and come back and talk to us about it. Yes, Sherry?
Yeah, and that's what I was saying, because it doesn't seem like it just pencils out. So for whatever period of time, if it's 2 weeks or somebody said swim every Saturday to get people to come, or October 1st, you know, just the different options. Because my concern is if you have too many people coming, they're going to have a miserable time, and then nobody's going to want to come because it's going to be too crowded. If you've ever been anywhere that's just like packed, like some of the water parks that are just so packed, especially now, people are going to be miserable. So I think how we spread it out, like I said, maybe use more of see what it is to use some of those dollars, our care dollars, maybe to help people who can't pay it, so that we can make sure everybody can enjoy it for passes, and maybe a short period of, you know, like you said, where we scan and we free. I just don't want to make it a bad experience where people say, well, it was so crowded and so miserable. My kids couldn't get in the pool. I had to wait for the slide for 2 hours. I couldn't get, it was hot, you know. And if you just say all the time, we have to have some sort of, and that's up for you guys to figure out what a way is to have some sort of free trial sometime, give back to our community. I agree with that, but I just think a blanket, I think we need some structure, and you guys are the experts. And I think we need to make sure it pencils out. So make sure that we aren't putting the resident back on the burden on the residents later. And then we're like, oh, well, now we have to raise because we couldn't pay for the staff. And I don't want it to be miserable for staff either, because if you've got all those people and you're the lifeguard at the water slide, you're stressed, you're trying to watch all these people, or worse, you turn people away. You get the kids and their swimmies and their little floaties, you bring them down, they're all excited to play in the river, and it's packed. So I think that's for you guys to figure out a good way to do a thank you to our residents, balance the budget like the mayor said, and come up with something that we can really do a give back that's reasonable.
And first day or first week should tell a story to you. I just worry about it's going to be like the fireworks at 4th of July, and everybody, yay, yay, and they get ready to leave, and they're stuck in traffic. And you know how they feel. Well, I think that you can relate how they feel, and that's how they'll feel at this pool or at the recreation or anything we give. And the one thing you have to look at, hey, we're building a beautiful facility. The city has done a lot of movement on this. So just the fact that they have that excitement, I think is worthwhile. So just cautious, that's my feeling. Anybody else have any more comments? Did I kill the conversation? I didn't mean to do that. Councilman Hampton.
I'm okay approving this and then coming back and coming back with whatever that looks like.
Let them do what they do so well.
I wanted to get some clarity on this because I think this is good, and then they can come back and whatever we decide or that looks like.
And they've got all your ideas, so that it gives them something to work with.
I think the manager's got her hand up.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to just get some clarification. So does council want staff to come up with a plan, the welcome for new residents, and bring it back to council? Or are you asking us are you considering adopting the fees tonight and then we'll work behind the scenes based on the feedback? 'Cause I know there's some, urgency might not be the right word, but we're anxious to start the marketing and the communication.
Because, everybody has made these suggestions in goodwill. They're excited and we're looking at money. But I think it should be in a more organized way for them to look at it and how each of these suggestions is feasible at that time and how it would place people around on the facility.
Okay, so to bring it back to council.
Yeah, and then bring it back, and at that time, then the council can make a decision on those suggestions.
But we're going to adopt the fees tonight.
Oh, yeah, that has nothing, but you're adopting what they presented.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, all right, no, I'm not going to stop that. Is there any more conversation here? Okay, gentlemen, thank you so much. So we're going to vote on this. Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Stipp?
Nay.
Councilmember Campbell?
Aye.
Councilmember Hampton?
Aye.
Councilmember Kano? Aye. Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Loretano?
Aye.
Mayor Lord?
Aye.
The motion carried.
I'm going to mispronounce the name. It's Hussey.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Kinsler, yeah. Thank you. The last item on business is consider approving the expenditure for parking and infrastructure improvements to the Municipal Operations Center Public Work Project. Facility Superintendent Martin Hussey and CIP Walt Kinsler will present. Just one. That's it. It's okay. Hello.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Walt Kinsler. I'm the Capital Improvement Program Manager for the City of Goodyear with the Engineer Department. I apologize, Martin Hussey can't be with us tonight, but I will be doing the presentation. And our request is for City Council's approval of the expenditure of $1,162,000 for parking infrastructure improvements to the Municipal Operations Center This is a recognized FY21 CIP project. The additional parking improvements are needed at the Municipal Operations Center due to the growth in operations, safety audits, the introduction of alternative fuel vehicles.
Could you turn the map so we could not have to look at it sideways? Can it go this way? That way. Oh, thank you. That's better. I think. It's just so little. Oh, yeah, good. You just have to go like that.
Go ahead.
I apologize. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Sorry. So we'll go to the exhibit. Here we have the Public Works Administration Building is here. We have fleet maintenance up here. The city fueling station here. We have an annex that houses street and facility maintenance staff. And so this area is recognized in the Facilities Master Plan as the Municipal Operations Center. The overall project will convert approximately 1.5 acres of vehicle and material storage that is currently topped with asphalt millings and dirt to a organized, paved, dust-proof parking area for oversized vehicles as well as service vehicles. The controlled staff parking in this area will be reconfigured to provide safe access to the building, as well as adding an additional 11 spaces with the opportunity to expand 14 additional spaces as growth happens. We have additional parking in front of the building on the east side. Security measures will be improved with the addition of 18 LED light fixtures around the parking area, as well as secured gates at this location, and this location. Those are being put in, and it's a coordinated effort between the water reclamation facility and the surface water treatment facility partnership. We also have within the secured staff parking area the opportunity for 2 electronic vehicle charging stations, one here that would service 2 vehicles, and then one here that could service 2 vehicles. The steps moving forward, we have 4 steps. The first step is we have a construction cost estimate with contingencies that is within budget. We have negotiated a construction administration and inspection contract with our engineer of record. We are in the final stages of plan review for permitted plans. We expect to have our permitted plans shortly. And then 4th would be the council's approval of the expenditure of funds for $1,162,000 for the parking infrastructure and improvements to the Municipal Operations Center. That would begin our construction process, and the construction process is a 3-month process, so it's pretty quick. And with that, I'll conclude my presentation and be available for questions.
Thank you. Are there any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Would anybody in the audience like to speak? All right, can I have a motion, a second, to approve the expenditures of the funds up to $1,162,000 for parking and infrastructure improvements to the Municipal Operations Center Public Works? Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
I heard a motion from Councilman Kano, a second from Vice Mayor Stipp. All right, open for conversation. Councilman Hampton.
I had a question. So the electric vehicles, I know we're doing that pilot. I know, are we expanding that program, or is this just in place? I know I like the idea of having the electric vehicle areas to expand for future, but where are we charging those vehicles now? Is there already a spot that we charge it, and this will be a more convenient, better place to charge the vehicles?
Javier.
Javier.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Well, thanks for the question. We have 4 electric vehicles in the city, and there are, I believe, we have 3. We're getting a 4th one. No, I'm sorry. We have 3. They're in City Hall, and the 4th one is actually already at Public Works, but is being charged just with a regular plug.
Okay.
So right now, this project will go ahead and install the first charging station, and there's just empty conduit for additional expansion. We don't necessarily have a plan to buy more vehicles, but we believe that getting electric vehicles is going to be inevitable in the long term.
Okay, no, I like it. I was just curious. Site just sparked with electric vehicles. Sparked the idea. I just was curious what that looked like for the future. I like the idea of potentially expanding it. I think it's smart to look ahead and for those type of things too. So I think that's all the questions I had. As we're growing, I know there's lots of things that we need more space for. So thank you.
Any more discussion? No? Okay. Let's vote on it. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Well, we didn't do too bad. 7:49. And we're at the end. So with the city manager, do you have anything to report?
I do not, Mayor.
No?
I do
Okay. Council? No ask, nothing. Okay, so the next meeting will be a work session following by a special meeting on January 11th, 2021. Will begin at 5 o'clock. With no further business, this meeting is adjourned.